Hi, welcome back to Flourish. In this video, we're going to be looking at how to use variables and events to design our calculator app. Alright, now let's get started. So in the last video, we looked at how to design our calculator using our user interface control, and then we were able to come up with this. Alright, so how do we use events and variables to actually trigger some actions? For example, when I click on 0, I want the number to appear on the screen. Alright, so how do we do that? Before we do that, we need to understand what an event is. Right? Events are like actions. Events are actions actually that triggers a certain behavior, and that is what an event is. So for example, when I click on this button 0, it should trigger the number 0 to appear on the screen. The same thing to when I click on 1. It's supposed to trigger the number 1 to appear on the screen. So now, how can we achieve that using variables and events? To do that, we need to create a variable. And then what is a variable? A variable is a memory box or a container where we keep data for retrieval or for use. For example, if I want to create a variable called number, I would have to click on variables, and then I come right here to declare my number. So I'm going to call it what? Number. And then I will assign it to be 0. Now what this means is that I have created a certain memory location and I've given it a name called number, and I set the number to be 0. Alright, now. So now, how do we use this to create our calculator app? Alright, just hold on for me while we continue. Now to do that, we need to click on user interface control, and then we're going to use our events. Drag this event and then you attach it to your code. Now in this event, we want to control the 0 button. Now when we click on the 0 button, we want 0 to appear on the screen. To do that, you need to select the ID. So click on this arrow and then you select the ID name for the button, which is what? btn_0, which is this. And then we are calling the action to be what? Click. Now you can decide to pick on any of the actions right here, but for now we're going to be looking at click. So what this means is that what? When I click on the button, we want a certain behavior to happen on the screen. So now what exactly is that behavior? So we want our number to be 0 at the same time. Remember, we created a memory location called number, and then we initialize that number to 0. So we're going to call that same number out, and then we assign it to be 0. How do we do that? You go back to variables, and then you select the number. You select this one right here, and then you call it, say, number, and then you give it the value 0. Now you might be asking me why am I repeating this step? Why don't I just go straight to the point, since already we have already declared number as a variable? Now the reason is because if I decide to remove this and then go straight to the point, let's see what happens. I go back to user interface control, and then I'll use this function called set text. Now the reason why we are setting text is because our display element right here is a text box. So we need to set text of this ID, which is what? Text_input. So we're going to change that to what? Text_input 1. You can look for that. Alright, and then we're going to change the text to whatever is inside the variable number. So you're going to type what? Number. Yeah, you're going to type number in that. So that is how to retrieve the values in a variable. Alright, now let's run this and see what happens to our calculator app. So when I click on run, and then I decide to click on 0 now, 0 would actually appear, which is good. 0 will appear because of the fact that we've declared a variable called number, and then we've assigned it to be 0, and then we're calling that same number out to be displayed on the text. Alright, so now, but the reason why I said we need to put in this number is because of the other numbers right here. Now let me show you why I said that. Hold on. So if I want to write the same code for button 1, I'm going to go to user interface control, and then I'm going to select the event block again. But in this case now, it's going to be number 1. So I'm going to click on the arrow and then select what? Number 1. btn1. The same thing. What this means is what? When I click on the button 1, I want a certain behavior to be triggered on the screen. So what we want is that what? We want the number 1 to appear on the screen. How do we do that? This is where my own strategy will work. You need to go back to variable, and then you change the value in the variable. In this case now, you're going to call number, and then you set the number to 1, because in this case now we're dealing with 1. All right, and then you go back to user interface control to set the text in the text box to what? You have to change the ID of the text box. You change the text box to what? You can pause the video and answer that question. What are we going to change the text in the text box to? All right, so if you said number, you're correct. We're going to change the text to number. Oops, sorry about that. So we're going to go again. You change this one to the text ID, and then you change the value to number. Now in this case, when we click on the btn1, our variable now contains the value 1. So that is the concept right now. Can you see how we're implementing the concept of variable and event to solve a real problem? All right, so now when I click on my run now and I click on 1 should appear on the screen. Voila, that's it. The reason is because I have actually assigned my number to be what? 1. Now I want you to give it a try now. Try. What if I want to click on button 2? What would I set the variable of the number to? You can pause this video and come back to check if you're correct. Alright, welcome back. Now if you said that the number should be assigned to, you should assign 2 to number, you're correct. Because in this case now we're dealing with number 2. So you need to initialize the number to what? 2. Number, and then you call it what? 2. And then you use the same function, which is what? Set text, and then you change the ID to text input, and then now you call the variable, whatever is in the variable, which is what? Number. Now when you run this code now, oops, is there an error? Alright, yeah, there's an error. I did not change the value right here to what? btn_2. So we need to do that. You change the value to btn_2. So that's it right there. So now when I click on reset and then run again, now when I click on 2 now, 2 appears on our screen, as you can see now. So let's go again. When I click on 0, 0 appears. 0 is not appearing. Remember what I said about that? Now when you click on 1, 1 goes back to, the value goes back to 1. When I click on 2, it goes back to 2. But for 0 is not appearing because of what I said earlier. You need to call that variable. You need to call that variable in the event. So to correct that, you need to just go back to variables, and then you set the number back to 0. So that whenever we click on 0, the number is meant to be set to 0. Alright, now, so when you run this code again now it's working. As you can see now, it's working. So now that is it. So I would need you to finish up with this. I need you to write the event for 0, 1, 2, 3 till we get to 9. And in the next video, I'll show you how to concatenate our numbers. What do I mean by concatenate? It means that when I click on 1 and then I click on 0, 0 should show in the next line and not just clear off the screen like that. Do you understand? So that is what we're going to be looking at in the next video. I hope you understand this concept. I hope this is really helpful for you. I need you to comment if you have any question in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and then like this video if you really enjoy this programming concept. Until then, I'll see you in the next video. Stay blessed and keep flourishing. Bye.